My guest again today is Lois Perry, and it's been, I think, since June of 23 that we talked, and a lot of stuff has changed for you, right? You're head of Heartland UK. You want to talk about that?
Yes. Yeah, a lot of stuff has changed. A lot of things have gone on, which I know you're going to ask me about during this interview. Yeah, I'm now the executive director for the Heartland Institute, which I'm sure your viewers are aware is a huge think tank, one of the most significant think tanks in the UK, in the USA. I'm head of the UK and Europe now, the executive director, and I'm honoured to have that position. I'm really excited about my new role.
All right. And you've just been in that role a short time, right?
Yeah, we announced it in November last year. We did a big event, which was very well attended and got the left very, very riled. We had it. The event at the exclusive Brooks's Club, which is one of the oldest private members clubs in the world, actually, in St James in London. And Nigel Farage, MP, very kindly attended. He's a big supporter of mine and Heartland UK and Europe. And former Prime Minister Liz Truss was there, assorted lords and ladies. So no, it was MPs. It was great. It was really, really good. And it gave me a big boost, all of that support for me and Heartland, more importantly, in the UK and Europe at this time. Because we're so jealous of you. We are so jealous of you with what's going on. Every time I go onto Twitter, I get president envy or prime minister envy, if, in our case.
So... yeah, I am happy with how it's going here in the last 3 weeks.
I bet you are.
Yeah. A major thrust of Heartland's work over there is fighting the climate scam, right? I see it listed first on the website. They mentioned the climate scam as being a major issue, right?
Yes, it is, which means I'm public enemy number one for almost all of the media, actually. Although you'd be surprised, there's a lot of softening going on in towards the anti-net zero debate. Even people who want to say that they believe in it all. And, as the Heartland, we promote discussion, foremost and first and foremost, I should say. But, even people who want to believe in the whole thing are saying, come on, is this really the best way forward? In terms of, we're just exporting our carbon emissions. Even people who bought into it, hook, line and sinker, are saying that now. And of course, with the Reform Party making major strides, topping all the polls, because of the work that I did previously in my previous incarnation with Card 26, and this has been credited to me. And I said this to you before, but I'll say it again. Americans don't mind you blowing your own trumpet, so I will. And Card 26 has been, we've been told directly by Nigel Farage that we're the reason that that anti-net zero is in their manifesto, and it is their policy to abolish all net zero policies when they become the government at the next election. Although I will say, Heartland does not endorse any particular political party, and we are in talks with all political parties.
So you personally are continuing your straight talk, right? You get on the media and you just straight up call it a scam, right? You don't pussyfoot around. I love it. Right.
Well, I am what I am. I'm not, I am trying to be, look, my presentation is I'm still me. I'm having to be a little bit more measured and, in some of the things that I'm doing, but ultimately I believe what I believe. But you know what? Even if you do believe that man-made climate change is real, or that all of this stuff that's going on is real, the way that it's being dealt with is moronic, and so that's the way that I look at it. If we need to have intelligent debate, science-based. Look at science, not say the science is settled. Science is never settled, and not shut down argument, because when arguments are shut down, there's always an ulterior motive, always.
Somebody just commented in the last hour on my YouTube feed saying that CO2 is not the climate control knob, and we're spending $50 trillion trying to crank on this thing that's not the climate control knob, and then we're not even turning that. We're not even turning it. If you look at the Keeling curve, all the stuff we're doing, no effect, right?
No effect. And it's because it isn't really about the climate, is it? We've had this conversation before. It's neo-Marxist globalist control policy. If you see, I've said this before, but they're sitting there stroking their white cats in their caves at Davos, laughing their heads off because CO2 is life. So if you say that CO2 is wrong, then you're saying that life is wrong. It's a joke. It's a dark comedy. It's the divine comedy, a dark joke on humanity, that CO2, which we emit as human beings every single second that we're alive, and again, when we're dead, we generate CO2 by decomposition or by being cremated. To say that is somehow a pollutant, I think is I think they're having a bit of a joke on us, actually. I really do.
What do you think, though? Wasn't Davos way less cool this year even than last year? There's this whole vibe shift going on. It seems like the WEF people are wising up and they're not loving it anymore as much.
Oh, well, yeah, apart from, was it, how do you pronounce his name? Is it Javier, the Argentinian president?
Oh,
Is it the
yeah. Is it Malay?
That's it. Sorry. Yeah. He was brilliant, wasn't he? He was absolutely fantastic. I watched his whole speech and just thought, oh, thank goodness, because obviously Trump had just won, and I just thought, this is just fantastic. We just need to do this in the UK and Europe now, which is why I'm here, which is what I'm doing.
Yeah, and I've heard you just talking about the crazy stuff in the UK where they're trying to annoy drivers on purpose, right? They want to make it so annoying to drive your car that you get on the train or the bus, I guess, right? That is an actual thing they're trying to do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There was a House of Lords Commission report that one of my Car 26 dinners that I used to do, my previous incarnation, which was an anti-net zero organization as well. We actually printed out this report, and the report set was called Learning the Lessons of COVID. Now, you and I might think, oh, learning the lessons of COVID, great. They're going to learn about all the mistakes they made, how they ruined people's lives, how, loads of people died because of the consequences of lockdowns. No. This was about learning the lessons of COVID, about how to use social control manipulation techniques and messaging. That's what the report was about. And it was about how they could use that to push the net zero stuff. So one of the parts of the report actually states very clearly that the 20 mile per hour zones, 20 mile per hour speed limits were nothing to do with emissions at all. It's confirmed it in the report, and was literally to annoy people. It was in the House of Lords report. And I mean, I know that there's a number of friends of mine, especially men of a certain age, that they just can't drive at 20 miles an hour. That I've got 2 or 3 good friends of mine that have got currently, well, not currently, but did have driving bans. Because just from doing 23 miles an hour 4 times, that's 12 points. And then you get a 6-month ban or 12-month ban. I've got another friend of mine who is currently driving on 12 points. And he just needs one. And actually, if they haven't caught up with him, when they do catch up with him, he won't be able to drive anymore. But that's not from speeding at 60 miles an hour. It's from going 4 miles an hour or 3 miles an hour in areas of London where previously, roads he's been driving on for 40 years, which are now 20 anyway. So yeah, it is to annoy people. The whole electric car thing is nothing to do with saving the environment. You know this, your viewers know this. It's everything to do with pricing ordinary working class people and middle class people out of being able to drive. They're also giant iPads. Everyone knows where you are. They can be remotely disabled. If we had a lockdown, they just disable the car. They would just disable the car. It wouldn't be about jumping in your car to pop to see Nan because she's run out of milk. You'd have to, it just wouldn't open. The car wouldn't open. Anyway, yeah, so all about control. Absolutely.
Yeah. So you do see electric cars as just a stepping stone to no cars, right? That with the control.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And also to completely thwart private enterprise as well. I mean, the most basic, that's the wrong word, but a man in a van, I don't know what you call them in America, but a guy who's strong, who's got a van, who does removals and pickups or whatever, maybe does practical work, gardening or handyman stuff. That's the cornerstone of free enterprise and working for yourself, isn't it? That's being your own boss 101. And that's going to be gone. That is going to be gone. I've got a very good friend of mine, a guy called Derek Baker. He owns a company called CFS Filtration, which is a big company in the UK. And he said that the vans, the equivalent Mercedes vans to the one that he's got, number one, wouldn't even move off the driveway of his business with the amount of stuff in it that needs to be delivered. But it would take 3 days to do what could be done in 1 day. And that's only if the charging points were at the correct places and all of that kind of stuff. But because of regulations about the amount of time that people are allowed to be on the road for, and obviously they have to drive much slower, 3 days for a 1 day job. This guy supplies filtration stuff for kidney dialysis at hospitals. How can we have a situation where dialysis equipment cannot be delivered? It's not thought through. It's actually insanity. Absolute insanity.
Yeah, a lot of people that are making these rules, they don't have a connection to the real world, and they think maybe that you can take your equipment around on the subway or something. That the man in the truck.
Someone tested it because our foreign secretary is a guy called David Lammy. Not particularly popular, even with Labour voters. Not that there will be any Labour voters soon. And he said, oh, surely a handyman or a painter, decorator could take his stuff on the tube. I mean, it's ridiculous. But one of the big radio stations in the UK, LBC, tried it. And they got a guy to try and go on the underground carrying various pots and things and also obviously chemicals that you would need to do his work. And they wouldn't let him on the tube. They wouldn't let him on. So it's it's all insanity. But our front bench at the government, if you like, not one of the people that's on the front bench has had their own business. And a lot of them have never even worked for a private company. They've either been in the public sector or law. I mean, obviously law is private, but in terms of working for a real business, a proper business, apart from the people that worked in law firms, most of them have gone straight into public sector jobs or government stuff. It's pretty abysmal, especially when you look at the main guys you've got, with Rob Kennedy, and Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Haven't they got like 300 years or 200 years or something of experience? We've got like 1 minute or something, and that's because someone worked at a law firm. I'm actually embarrassed about it. It's embarrassing.
Can you describe for me what the major parties are in the UK? Because as an American, I don't understand what's going on. Is there hope for common sense? Any sort of a Musk type?
The thing is, if we'd had this conversation a year ago, it would have been a very different conversation. I would have been telling you that there was almost effectively one party because they all had exactly the same policies, but to varying degrees of, to varying degrees of how harsh they were or lenient on certain things, but we basically effectively the same policies. So you've got the Conservative Party, which traditionally would have been like the Republican Party, but is not in any way conservative whatsoever. Although they have recently put in a new leader, Kemi Badenoch, who is not particularly effectual. I think I'm probably over-egging it by saying that. she does have some policies that would be described as right wing, but a lot of that is only because she's been pushed into it by the other party that I'll talk to you about in a minute. Then you've got the Labour Party, which would be like your Democrats. Again, like your party, Democrats. They're supposed to represent working people, but actually represent globalist, neo-Marxist, nightmarish policies that have absolutely nothing to do with working people, and which actually most traditional working class people would loathe. So radical ideology to do with race, trans stuff, all of that kind of jazz, mega woke, mega net zero, anti-business, anti-farming, anti-private enterprise, anti-people being able to do anything. They seem to be pro people killing themselves as well, because they've recently brought in a law. Well, it's in the debating stage at the moment, but they voted through the first stage for people to be able to take their own lives if they can. It's supposed to be that it's called the assisted dying bill or something, but actually it's the assisted suicide bill. So they believe that if you if you're at the end of your life, or if you're terminally ill, that and your family think this is costing a bit too much money, where this is draining the house inheritance, let's encourage them to bump themselves off, and the doctors will do that. So you've got the Liberal Democrats, which are again very similar policies, don't seem to be particularly pro-business, don't really believe in anyone having personal autonomy, very pro-net zero. It's very depressing, actually. Then you've got the Greens. They speak for themselves. They're basically, unreconstructed Trotskyites. And then you've got, I can't endorse any particular party, but I will say to you that when you say, is there any hope? Yes, is the answer. And that is with reform. So since Nigel Farage MP took over just over, I think it was about nearly a year ago, it's just phenomenal. I mean, absolutely phenomenal. They managed to get 5 MPs at the last election. Now, I can't tell you, because of the way that our system works, coming from a standing start of nothing to 5 MPs is extraordinary. I mean, they actually got, because of the way our constituencies work, they actually got more votes than the Liberal Democrats, who I believe ended up with, I think it's 55 MPs, and they got 5 with more votes. But, that's just the way it works. They are topping all of the polls now. They are mopping up from Labour, the working class vote, and the traditional Conservative vote. Yeah, it's pretty phenomenal, actually. And people and the bookies are, some of them won't even take bets now on Nigel Farage becoming Prime Minister. He's odds-on favourite to be the next Prime Minister. So yeah.
When could that happen?
He's not a net zero fan. As I say, one of their policies is to overturn it. One of their policies is to abolish inheritance tax, full stop, which will be good for business and for the farmers, because the farmers are really suffering at the moment. It's horrific what's going on here with the farmers.
Okay, so he's odds-on favorite to win, and when would he actually take office if this happens?
Well, it would be, where are we now? It would be, so it's every 5 years, unless an early election, a snap election was called. So it would be 2029, wouldn't it? Because Labour got in last year. So yeah.
Can you explain at all how this thing works with getting more votes and only having 5 versus over 50 MPs?
I know. Well, it's all dependent on how the vote is spread out across the country. So if in terms of constituencies, that Nigel's vote was spread over the whole of the United Kingdom, whereas the Liberal Democrats are very, very clever, actually, at focusing on very targeted seats. So they focused on a very small number of seats and won them, basically. But I think Nigel was making a point with the strategy for the last election. I mean, no one knew how well they were going to do. It was extraordinary. But I think he wanted to show, and he did show, that there was support across the entire United Kingdom for reform. And those numbers, you know, they speak for themselves. They really do.
So do you think the working class people have figured out which party actually does represent them and they're not fooled by the names of the parties?
Absolutely. Yeah. As I say, if we were having this conversation just over a year ago, it would be a very different conversation. There really does seem to be an alternative now. And a good way of assessing what working class, especially entrepreneurial working class people think, is to get in a black cab in London. And I'm yet to meet a cabbie in a black taxi in London that isn't saying they're voting reform. Every single one. I mean, obviously that's not that's anecdotal, obviously, but yeah. So every working class person I speak to tells me they're voting reform, and it doesn't matter what their background is. But again, I do not endorse any one particular party, and I speak to all political parties.
I heard someone else say that, and I've talked to some taxi drivers too around the world, and it seems like they're based. You don't find many woke taxi drivers, people who have real jobs.
You really don't. No, you really don't. I mean, even the Uber drivers that I speak to, you know, they're just so annoyed at being forced to be in these electric cars because they can't take airport jobs. Because you can get out to the airport from central London, but you can't get back again. And if they go completely, a lot of them are okay at the moment because they've got hybrid vehicles, but they're going to be forced to go fully electric. And if they don't go fully electric, they won't get the jobs. This Uber driver told me that they will be penalised and they will not receive jobs if they have a hybrid very shortly. Unbelievable. I don't know how people are going to get to and from the airport. Actually, that's when the black taxis, they'll be thinking yes, because everyone will have to get a black cab then.
So are you thinking that if a Farage gets in the power, that he could take a kind of a chainsaw to this woke stuff like is happening in the U.S.? Anything
Absolutely.
like that?
Yeah. I mean, it's a slightly different. There's no such thing as what's the technical term where the president can do things and it doesn't have to go through
executive order.
That's it, an executive order. We don't have that as such, although we do to a certain extent, but it's not official. But things do still have to go through Parliament. But of course, if you've got a majority, you can vote through what you want. So, no, definitely he's going to take a chainsaw to all the woke stuff if when he wins. 100%. It's extremely unpopular. Extremely unpopular. It's quite interesting actually because of your DOGE department that you've got. We've had equivalent sort of Twitter accounts set up. Quite recently, where they're exposing our wasteful spending and the crazy things that we're spending money on, you know, like giving £200,000 to this gay organization to explore how Star Wars affected masculinity in the 70s for gay men or something. Yeah, like it's just crazy stuff, absolutely mad stuff. But I tell you what, the whole LGBTQI thing. I've got gay male friends of mine who just do not want to be lumped in with all this weird stuff. You know, they're just like, keep us away from all this trans, QI, all that stuff. They just, you know, they think it's embarrassing. I just find the whole thing embarrassing. No, anyway.
Is it Charlotte Gill is a really good follow, right? She does looking at the crazy spending. Is that an account you follow, Charlotte Gill?
Yes, she does. Yeah, she's brilliant. She's a good girl. I like her. Yeah, very, very good. She's one of us.
Do you want to comment on what's happening with the farmers' protests? And I saw Katie Hopkins reporting with the tractors driving around. What's happening there?
Well, I tell you what, it's quite exciting. The other night, I went to the gym and then I went to the supermarket. To buy some food, obviously, and there's a road near where I live called the Finchley Road. Now, normally the cars that go down this road are normal cars, regular cars, yeah. And it was all tractors coming back from central London, going back out to their farms, And all of the tractors were, you know, because obviously the farmers knew they were going to be on camera. They were all gleaming, and it was really exciting. And everyone was beeping, and people were doing this thumbs up, and because there's a lot of support for the farmers. What the Labour Party have done, they have introduced a new law to do. If you had a farm that was worth £1 million or under before, you and that's to do with the land. That's to do with the land normally, not the value of the business, because these farmers would be lucky if they make £20,000 a year, right? So this is to do with the value of the land. Previously, there wouldn't be inheritance tax if you passed it on to your children or to your relatives. Now, what they're doing, you have a farm that, as I say, they might be scraping 20, 30,000 quid a year in terms of what they make, or not even breaking, or just breaking even. They're now saying that if you want to leave your farm to your child or whoever in your family, you've got to pay to the government 20% of what the business is worth. 20%. Now, for most of these farms, it will mean they'll have to sell the farm. Most of them. So you've got farms that they'll have to, because they're going to have to find 200,000 quid from somewhere. And it's all very well said, oh, you know, they're millionaires. That land might have been in their family for 4 to 5 generations. It happens to have gone up in value, but it's a way of life. It's an absolute way of life. So what that will mean is that all of these family farms will be put out of business, and the land will be sold probably to people that want to grow bugs or whatever for us to eat, or solar farms or some nonsense. You know, it's horrific. The whole way. Last year, 1,000 farmers left permanently. 1,000 farmers. That's according to the NFU. NUF. Sorry, National Union of Farmers. They left permanently, and the rates of suicide with farmers it's through the roof. It's really, really sad. In fact, on the day the legislation came in, a man took his own life so that he could leave the farm to his kids before the tax legislation was implemented. They found him in the barn. He'd hanged himself. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. And of course, it's the same for all family businesses. I mean, most family businesses do not have huge amounts of money just kicking around for no reason. So if you want to leave your business to your child, and they say the business is valued at a certain amount of money, which is all random anyway, because you could ask 5 different companies value your business and get 5 different answers. So, and then the person that inherits the business has suddenly got to find, I don't know, 200,000 quid. From where? What are they going to do? They have to sell the building, or it's just. I was funnily enough, I'm actually sitting in my nan's bedroom at the moment because I've had to come down to Essex for an appointment, and I was talking to my nan about this. You know, it's pretty disgusting. Who's got that money knocking around? You know, they just haven't, have they?
So what do you think is really motivating the whole war on farmers? Is the reason supposed to be they're trying to prevent bad weather, or is it just Marxism?
They just, look, they know that their farmers are not going to vote Labour. I think they mistakenly thought it was a bit of an easy win. But I don't know. I mean, you want to go down the rabbit hole,
Sure.
making this land cheap, which it will be, because they will be having to sell it quickly to pay inheritance tax, means that people that want to buy up large amount of lands for other reasons, it's going to be easy for them, isn't it? You know, they don't care about putting farmers out of business. They don't care about farmers. The farming minister the other day is quoted as saying, "We do not put farming at farmers and farming is not high on the list of Labour's priorities." Now, when you've got a minister in government that's saying that, it's not a good sign, is it? It really, really isn't. It's all very sinister, actually, because the whole thing for me and for you, I imagine, and for people on our side of the argument, it's all about being self-sufficient and autonomous and, you know, having sovereignty. And that's why I said to you, we're all so jealous of you guys at the moment. And being able to be produce your own food at a reasonable price, and to be self-sufficient with feeding your own nation should be at the forefront, surely, of that. But these people, the people we've got running our government at the moment, they don't care about Britain. They do not care. And in fact, Keir Starmer was asked recently, if you had to make a choice between the Commons and Stavros, what would you choose? And he actually said, sorry, not Stavros. God, my brain's gone. Sorry, Davos. He'd said Davos. He actually said it in an interview. Davos. So, you know, that's where the masters are. That's where this is all coming from, and that's our prime minister. It's embarrassing, but it's also terrifying.
But the people in Britain won't let Davos win, will they? At some point, is there a breaking point here?
We will fight them on the beaches.
Yeah, I just watched that movie.
Ground. We will never surrender. No, we're not going to let them win. I'm not going to let them win. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And as I say, the British people are showing with the polling that they don't want this, that they don't like it. They don't like the woke stuff. They don't like the net zero stuff. I've got some notes here. I should know this off by heart. My apologies, but I don't. So at the moment, we are currently paying £110 per megawatt hour for our electricity. Now, that's still very expensive because it should be £55, but the actual tax on it, the carbon tax, is £60 per megawatt hour. Now, if you think that in Norway you could actually buy the gas to make this electricity at £18 per megawatt hour, that gives you some indication of how ridiculous it is. The other day, we had to pay £5,000 per megawatt hour because we were going to have blackouts in the UK. And very recently, London was about to go offline. So the Mayor of London had to agree to pay £9,000 per megawatt hour to keep the lights on and to keep everything going in London. As you can imagine, if the electricity went down in London, it doesn't even bear thinking about in terms of civil unrest. You know, that it would be horrific, wouldn't it? So yeah, we are stuckered. And recently, the other day, I think, when was it? It was last week, I think. Last week or the week before last, we had a day where there wasn't just a little bit of wind and a little bit of solar. There was 0% on the grid from wind and from solar. What on earth would we do without gas backup? And we're shutting down all our gas-fired power stations. They're all going. And Ed Miliband, our energy and net zero secretary, doesn't sound particularly impartial, does it? No. He said, you know, he's saying, oh, we're going to go completely renewable and all of that, and it's so much cheaper. It's just insane. He's proud of shutting down our gas-fired power stations. He's bonkers, absolutely bonkers. We've got another situation, and Lee Anderson, an MP for Reform, said this in Parliament the other day. There's a power station called Drax, which is heavily subsidised to the tune of hundreds of millions of pounds by the UK taxpayer every year. And they're banning wood pellets brought over from the US on ships that are powered by diesel to burn in the power station. And it's next to a coal mine, a former coal mine. So it used to burn our own coal. Now we import it. I don't know what to say. It's so extraordinarily stupid. And then, of course, it makes you think, what is it all really about? You know?
So some people who are doing a good job of fighting this, Bernadette Spofford, she's fighting net zero on Twitter very well. And Net Zero Watch, I don't know if it's Andrew Montford that's doing that, but I'm seeing a lot of the stuff you're talking about the ridiculous electricity prices. I'm seeing that, I believe, on Twitter, on that Twitter feed.
Yeah, they're fantastic. Net Zero Watch is affiliated to the Global Warming Policy Foundation, and they came to my launch event for the Heartland in December.
I was going to ask if are you guys working together? The different organizations, you are working somewhat together?
I think they see us as their naughty cousin.
Okay.
They have I have the utmost respect for the GWPF and for Net Zero Watch. We are affiliated, and we go to each other's events, and we have different styles of communicating with the public. I will say that the GWPF has been a little on the fence, whereas we perhaps are not quite so much, and that goes for me in my previous incarnation as well, and with the Heartland Institute UK and Europe. So yeah, we're friendly, but we might be the cousin that they put on a table slightly, at a wedding.
So speaking of that,
joking aside, we are professionally very friendly. Yeah.
So over the years, I've gone to a number of Heartland conferences in the U.S. And I don't know if you've been to one in the U.S. or are you going to have them in the U.K. or Europe, or how's that going?
Yeah, we will be doing conferences in the UK, and we're looking to do an event in the summer in Poland, where Nigel Farage will come over and be a special guest of ours. So that's quite exciting. I have never been to one of the Heartlands conferences. I wish, because apparently one of them was in Florida. So, but that's a shame. Never mind. But I went to their 40th birthday dinner in Chicago recently, and that was amazing. So I had a very, very good time. Very good time. James Taylor, the president of the Heartland Institute, is a wonderful man, and I'm very grateful to him for believing in me and what we're doing, what I'm doing over here, and my team. It's thank you, James.
Do you have any
Jim Blakely as well? He's great.
Yes. Do you have any contacts with IKE? I went to an IKE climate conference in June. That's another similar, I think, organization that's fighting the climate scam. I think based in Germany.
I haven't made contact with them yet, but I do know who you're speaking about. I've been in the process of the last couple of months. I've been contacted by people and organizations from all over Europe. I'm doing Zooms with people from Germany, Italy, France. I mean, it's very exciting. Poland, having to learn very, very, very quickly about different political situations in different countries. So yeah, I'm making contact with a lot of organizations at the moment. I know who you're talking about, but I personally haven't had contact with them yet.
Yeah, and yet another one I should bring up is Clintel out of the Netherlands. They hosted a really successful premiere of Climate the Movie. I was there in March for that.
Yes, I do have contacts and associations with them. Yeah, they're fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Let's see. Another thing I wanted to ask you about is a more personal thing that you had a near-death experience. I don't know if you want to talk about that at all or not. No,
that's all right.
I'm glad you're feeling better. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, funnily enough, the reason that I'm in Essex, which is where my hometown, I live in London, but all my doctors and everything are here, is a follow-up appointment from last year, just to check that I'm okay. But so yeah, I became extremely, extremely unwell. I think this was in April last year. I was in hospital for, I had a temperature that went over 40. I was having fits and hallucinations, and the ambulance took me to hospital. For 3 days, they didn't know what was wrong with me. And unfortunately, because of that, I was deteriorated pretty badly. By the time a decision was made to take me into intensive care, I was unable to breathe on my own, and I was very poorly, very, very poorly. I had to go on breathing apparatus, and it turns out I had double pneumonia, which meant I didn't have one part of my. Normally, if you have pneumonia, you have some part of a lung working or one lung working. There was no part of either lung working. I was given 24 hours to live. My father, who I very sadly estranged from his choice, was on his way to say goodbye to me. My priest came and did the last rites. And then, tigger that I am, I managed to bounce back. So, but it was pretty scary. Pretty scary. You know what the most scary thing was, Tom? You imagine that when you're about to die, that you're sort of out of it. Because when in films, you see people and they sort of go, oh, you know, bye, and they say goodbye, and then they go, oh. But I was, because with the pneumonia, they don't want to do anything that could suppress your breathing at all, right? So they're not sedating you. So you're laying there hearing your family being told 24 hours, fully aware. And that was strange. I tell you, that was strange. But as I say, somebody loves me, big man.
Yeah, I'm so glad
I'm still here.
I'm so glad you are still here. Did that
Thank
change your
you.
outlook on
I
life?
did lose weight
Yeah.
though, so every cloud has a silver lining, Tom.
Did it change your outlook on life?
It was a very interesting time actually, because it was during the hustings. It was during the leadership campaign for UK Independence Party, and it was surreal. I mean, when I was discharged from hospital, I was told in no uncertain terms by the specialist that you need to take 3 months off. I took 3 days. I won by extraordinary percentage, actually, the leadership of UKIP, and I went, and then I had to hit the ground running, and I burnt out. I started getting very unwell again, and you know, there's a lot of debate over whether I should have taken the leadership, knowing that I've been unwell. All I can say is I can't change anything. I'm honoured to have been the leader of UKIP and to have had the opportunity to do so. But it is what it is. I mean, the people, while the membership were voting, they did know that I was in hospital, because somehow in between breathing apparatus and life and death experiences, I was still managing to tweet.
I saw that.
I don't know what that says about me, but anyway, there were a lot of people that were very concerned about me, and you know, and I will be forever grateful for all of the love and support that I got during that time. So, but yeah, I had a bit of a burnout, and I made a decision to step away completely from everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything. No phone, no laptop. I had a burner phone, you know, one of those 90s phones, and it had 5 numbers on it. I'm not going to tell you who they were, but literally no one could get in touch. I didn't even go online. 6 weeks I had, and then I got itchy. I got a lot better, obviously, and I thought, right, I want to come back, which I did. So, and then I had the opportunity, very amazingly, to do this. So I feel very blessed, Tom, in certainly in many more ways than one. As I say, I've got some amazing people around me, supporting me, family, but in my personal life as well. And I feel very lucky.
Well, I've seen you posting pictures of something about getting fit to fight the commies or something, or you're in the gym there. You're feeling better.
My ego out of control, Tom. I just like all the compliments. That's just me being honest. No, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's sad, really. But yeah, it's I've got quite an interesting brand, because on the one side, I've got my campaigning hat, and my political hat, but then with the people that follow me and support me, they do feel like I do have a sort of, not personal relationship, that's the wrong way of saying it, but I put a little bit about my personal life, not too much, but a little bit about my personal life on social media. And I think that the people that support me, God, this sounds really naff, but fans or whatever, I feel like they have an engagement with me. And I think that helps with my campaigning.
So you've spent some time on big old billboards in London, haven't you, in the last year?
Well, what better way to celebrate massive weight loss than than to front a lingerie campaign? No, what happened was I was approached by a company called Fior that make really beautiful lingerie actually, and hosiery, stockings and things like that. When I was the leader of UKIP, and I said no, obviously. I was quite happy to wear their products in interviews and stuff, but obviously I wasn't going to be doing anything. I mean, you can't imagine Margaret Thatcher stripping off for a billboard, can you? I mean, well, you can.
I would not, no.
No. Anyway, so when I left the leadership of, I made the decision to step down. I had my 6 weeks with the digital detox and everything else. They approached me again. And I thought, you know what? I've just survived this pneumonia. I've had all this stuff going on with UKIP. I'm not sure what I want to do next. I'm actually quite happy to be alive. And it's quite flattering. I mean, I'm not badly preserved, but I am in my 40s. And I thought, why not? Why not? So I ended up fronting a campaign for Fior, which was a social media campaign, but they also did a billboard as well. So, yeah.
So what's it like walking around and seeing?
Exciting, actually. It was quite fun.
What's it like walking around and seeing yourself on that big of a billboard? It was pretty big, wasn't it? No?
Yeah, it was weird. Actually, do you know what? The main reason that I did it was so a former boyfriend of mine would see it when he drove to work.
Did it work?
Yeah. I can't believe I'm going to get killed for saying that. I'm going to get absolutely killed for saying that. Anyway, so yeah, it was good fun. And actually, they wanted me to do a Christmas campaign, and it was quite, it would have been quite, quite nice money. But I had a chat with a few of one particularly famous supporter of what I'm doing, and he said, "I don't think it's a good idea, Lois." So that was a no-go. That was a no. But there's no way that I'm going to be fronting Heartland and doing that kind of thing. No. So, but look, I don't regret it. I was celebrating being alive. It was very flattering, and another interesting string to my bow, so to speak.
I mean, 2 years ago, there was no way you could predict what would have happened to you in the last 2 years, right? All the stuff that you've done, pretty amazing time.
No.
Mm-hmm.
It's been the best of times. It's been the worst of times. Yeah, to quote Dickens. But you know what? I'm in a really, really good place now. I'm thoroughly enjoying, and I hope that everyone feels that I'm stepping up to the challenge of what I'm doing with Heartland. We're only at the beginning, my team and I, with what we're doing, and yeah, I feel very, very privileged. I'm living back in London again, dividing my time. I'm up and down to Essex, but I'm mainly in London. My daughter is old enough now that she's spending time at my place and her dad's place, so that's good. My son is nearly 22, so he doesn't need his mum around that well. You'll be surprised, actually. But, he's doing his own thing. And I really do feel that this is my time. I remember talking about my nan again. I remember my nan saying to me, she said, "Lois," she said, "your 40s are the best decade. They're the best. Absolutely." She said, "You'll feel confident. You'll feel on top of your breath. And I used to think, really? But she's right. This is a good time. And I'm, as I say, I'm very, very proud to be doing what I'm doing. And yeah, it's all good.
So for the benefit of people who are not familiar with you, we should talk a little bit about how you got here. Like I was looking at this, you used to work at, or maybe have your own PR company. You worked at the BBC, Daily Telegraph. You've done a lot of different stuff, worn a lot of different hats already, haven't you?
I know. I need to get a few more heads. I started off working at Daily Telegraph when I was 18 years old. I was pondering whether I wanted to go to university. You guys call it college. And I thought, hanging out with boys my own age, not having any money, no thanks. So anyway, I was sitting, I just finished my A-levels. I was about to finish my A-levels, and I was sitting in the library at my school. And there was an advert at the back for an assistant in the Daily Telegraph City office. And I mean, when I say this is a lowly position, it was a lowly position. But I got it. I got the job, and I worked my way up. I mean, how old was I? I was 18, so it's 1999. So email was around, but it wasn't huge. Yeah. So a lot of the press releases arrived by post. And one of my first jobs in the morning when I arrived at 8 a.m. was to carry up a sack of post that was bigger than my entire body from the bottom of the office to the top floor, and then obviously distribute it and everything. But that was fantastic. And then I ended up working for Richard Desmond, who owned the Express Group and OK Magazine. And he's a character. He used to have a banana brought into him by a butler on a silver platter. He was great fun. And everyone said he was a tyrant, but he was always very nice to me. Nothing to do with what I used to wear and the fact that I was 19 years old. But anyway, Richard, I'm joking if you see this. No, he was a great boss, and I really enjoyed it there. And I met my now ex-husband, who I'm still very good friends with, at the Express newspaper group, and we set up our own PR company, which was for quite a long time very, very successful. And that's my background. I mean, we worked with some real biggies. I mean, Charles Saatchi of Saatchi Advertising. He was one of our clients for a while. We represented almost everyone from your equivalent to Shark Tank, Dragon's Den, almost all of the entrepreneurs. In fact, the PR company that I co-owned with my now ex-husband was credited with inventing the whole concept of the celebrity businessman. It wasn't actually a thing in this country before us. So, yeah, and then I made acquaintance at a party actually with the guy who basically ran BBC Radio 2, and he said, Lois, he said, you're loud, you're opinionated. Come on, let's get you on our main show. And they used to have me on arguing with feminists normally, which is quite funny, or talking about things to do with being a mum or media, or I've got a particular interest in Tudor history, so they'd have me on talking about that. And then Jeremy Vine, who was the biggest presenter on radio in this country, BBC Radio 2, got his own show on television. And so I started doing that as well. And it was shortly after that I was approached by a group of very wealthy Brexiteers to for individuals, not oil companies or anything like that, just individuals who could see that net zero was going to be bigger than Brexit, that it was going to be potentially used as a horse of Troy, which obviously it is being used, to take away our sovereignty, our autonomy. And Car 26 was born, the original anti-net zero group. There wasn't an anti-net zero group before. There was the GWPF, but it wasn't what we were doing. We were more guerrilla style, I think it's fair to say. Anyway, so yeah, that's my life in a nutshell. And then the rest, because we just did it before.
So through all your life experience, they used to call it a Rolodex, that you've developed a lot of different contacts. Do you want to drop any names of the people that you've met or interviewed or debated, anything like that? You don't have to.
Trying to get me in trouble, Tom. Well, so for a time, Sting was my client, the artist Sting, and his wife Trudy Styler. Sir David Frost was a good friend of mine, and your viewers might know him from he was portrayed in the film Frost Nixon. An actor played him in that. I was quite close to His Serene Highness Prince Albert II of Monaco for a time. His mum's Grace Kelly. Who else? I've met all the prime ministers since Blair. Lots of cool people, lots of important people. Obviously, I know Nigel Farage. I'm in Parliament quite a lot. I was in Parliament yesterday morning having meetings with the Conservative MP. So yeah. Who else have I met? I don't know. Lots of people. Okay. I don't want to get into trouble. When I was a teenager, I was quite close to Sir Bob Geldof, who did Live Aid. That was a long time ago. He was 50. I wasn't. Who else? Yeah, I don't think I should say anymore, Tom.
If you think of more, we can put them.
All sorts of trouble here.
Okay. Very, very interesting. Super interesting. Well, let's see. Oh, I was going to ask you about the climate and nature bill. What happened with that? Yeah, did it fall apart, or are they going to be debating it more?
Actually.
Yeah.
So it was a private member's bill, and you would have thought that, being as woke as this government is, that they would have actually made it mandatory, for their MPs to vote for it. But actually they said that the whip would be removed, i.e. they'd be expelled from the party if they did vote for it. But I mean, it was an extreme bill, and it was recommending more quangos be set up that could forcibly buy land and all sorts of horrific things in the name of net zero. It was talking about carbon credits. It was a pretty sinister bill. Fortunately, it never got through. It was actually withdrawn. But it just shows you, though, where their minds are at. This is what they think is acceptable. Not really owning your own property, having restrictions on how far you can travel, what you can do, what you can eat, what you could, all of that. This is what they actually want. So, yeah, a foreshadowing, I think.
Is that bill itself fully dead, or there's some talk about reviving it in a few months?
It has gone, but I'm sure it will represent itself in some other form. As I say, it's down but not out. Using boxing. Is that boxing? Yeah, it's boxing, isn't it?
That sounds right. I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because most analogies, metaphors, analogies in the UK are to do with cricket. As in it hit me for 6 and all of that. Anyway,
I don't know any of them.
No. I know. I had no idea, but I probably used loads of cricket ones all the time. Even when my son was playing cricket, I still had no idea what was going on. I just clapped when the other mums clapped.
Sorry. Do you happen to have any update on what's going on with Mark Stein? Whether I think he might have won some settlement of some legal fees from Michael Mann. Have you heard anything yourself?
No, I know Mark, and he was very, very supportive of what I was doing with the, challenging the net zero ideology. He gave me my own weekly slot on his show called Perry's Perspective on GB News for quite some time. I was sad about what happened to him, but no, I'm sorry, I don't have any update on that. Apologies, I'm not sure.
All right. Any other points you want to make before we wrap up here?
Just to say that I'm going to make it my focus, well, I already have, and my life's work to try and get what's happened in your country to happen in mine, and across Europe. And I also would like to say that the momentum is behind us with Trump's victory and with you know, all of the other leaders that are coming in across Europe and beyond. The woke ideology, the net zero, anti-business, Marxist, globalist nightmare, I think is really, 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 it's been turned around now. And yeah, watch this space, because I'm going to make sure that happens here too.
Yeah, and a small number of people, or even one person like you, I think you are a force of nature. You can have a big impact. Don't you agree? I think you do. Yeah.
Thanks. You're making me blush, Tom.
That's what I'm here for. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I really enjoyed this conversation. We should do it again. And thank you very much. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.